of your family, that would try to take advantage of your wives and your children, and not just fight back against it when it's here, but it is deeply masculine to know about and care about that history. There is nothing about masculinity that says you have to be ignorant, you have to be willfully stupid, moronic. I know that a lot of the avatars of it in this modern era are, but this is a demonstration that it doesn't have to be that way. There's a more intelligent and stronger and more aggressive masculinity that does not shy away from reality, but faces it head on and makes sure that tomorrow is better than today, certainly better than yesterday. And I think he's demonstrating how to do that. Now we're gonna give you just a little bit more of what he had to say with the little time we have remaining.
Eventually, these corporations just got sick of dealing with these unions and their hard-nosed negotiating and all that. And then they just said, well, you then, keep your union, keep your factory, we're leaving. And they took their factories outside of the US and went back to 1800 wages. What the you should be making those things here. And then what the corporate guy said was, well, we would make sneakers here, but if to pay the American worker and everything, the sneakers would then, instead of costing $50, they'd now cost $700. And I was always thinking, why? It would cost $700. I can't afford that. And what it really was they weren't going to lose the profit of sweatshop labor. So if they came back to America, we weren't going to work for that. So, and they weren't going to lose the profit of sweatshop labor. So they were going to pass it on to the consumer.
Again, all of that accurate, all of that is important, and you can listen to him break down more of it. People need to know that history. It's a reminder that the billionaires are not your friends. The CEOs are not your friends. There is a war that has been going on since before we were a country, and it's between the workers and those who want to take their wealth. Those who want to take their wealth have a lot of representation in government. They have the entire Republican Party. They have literally one of their own in Donald Trump, trying to give them as much power as possible. They have the vast majority of the Democratic Party. We have this minor upstart movement that, by the grace of God, by some miracle, hopefully will win next time. They're out there rallying right now, AOC and Bernie Sanders, and there's people, many of them leftists, but not all of them. There are some independents and there are some right wingers that don't want to just bow down to the corporate overlords for the rest of time, and they're trying to fight back. And I'm glad that we have regular people, we have activists, we have the politicians, and we have some people in pop culture, in comedy, who actually get it and are trying to get people to wake up. I have a lot more that I wish I said. Unfortunately, we're way over. We don't have time. I'm sorry. But I want to thank everyone for joining me here. We do have our Tier 3 members hangout, which is going to start in 34 minutes. I hope to see as many of you as possible there. Brett Ehrlich is going to be joining us tomorrow. Go vote on the post tab, I think it's called, on YouTube now, for both the garbage person of the week as well as the hero of the week. And we were going to get to the woman who went on a bunch of dates with right wingers and reported back on her experience today. We didn't get to it, so I'm going to give Brett a chance to joke around about that tomorrow. So it should be a lot of fun. For now, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and we'll see you soon.
welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today. Breaking down news of the day, none other than the incomparable Senator Nina Turner. Always fascinating to have her analysis. First story of the day, hell of a thing. A black teenager violently arrested after trying to help someone stranded. We have the video and we have the background. Here it is.
Bro, I didn't do anything, bro. I'm not resisting, bro.
Hey, you can't take my phone.
Bro, what? Bro, I am, bro. Come on, bro.
So sad. Put it up full mass. The teenager, Seth Palumbo, dragged out of a car and violently arrested while helping a friend who was stuck in a parking lot without gas. Now that teenager is suing. Let me tell you what led to this arrest. So the deputy that pulled over the young teenager, Deputy Bolin, told the teenager that he had made an illegal turn and asked Palumbo and his passenger for their identification, driver's license, etc. So the lawsuit alleges the passenger questioned Bolin's need for his identification, and both the passenger and Palumbo observed that this made Bolin very agitated because Deputy Bolin then quickly placed handcuffs on Palumbo's left wrist. Palumbo immediately asked why he was being arrested, and the deputy, nor any of the other deputies on the scene, responded. Deputy Bolin then forcefully pulled Palumbo by the handcuffs from his vehicle and intentionally body slammed him to the ground. Willis also observed Bolin pulled Palumbo out of his vehicle and suplex slammed him on the ground, and then picked Palumbo up and slammed his face against Palumbo's car. It is the third lawsuit that remains pending against Deputy Bolin, who was forced to resign in February from his job as a Harris County constable after local media questioned the agency on why they would hire such a cop. Harris County Precinct 2 told ABC 13 they had no idea about Deputy Bolin's past, claiming they did not have access to his prior records, despite the fact a quick Google search would have revealed the applicant to have serious red flags. Now, understand what's happening here. They're saying we had no idea he was a problematic cop. BS, because the news found it by doing a simple Google search. Now, here's the reality. The reason why they're saying there is no record is because agencies are not required to share internal information of police officers. Some of them do, some of them do not. Post certification, once again, if you don't file something with Post, you may not have access to it when you go to another jurisdiction, meaning the hiring agency. So they're saying, no, we had no idea. That stops, typically it stops a liability lawsuit of negligent hire. And you will see them do this routinely where obvious information is available. But they will say, but based on our protocol, we did not know. There's more. Bolin was allowed to resign to avoid termination. Click to Houston reported he was allowed to resign. That is usually a telltale sign that they knew what was going on. Harris County Sheriff's Deputy Christopher Bolin arrested Seth Palumbo on a felony charge of assaulting an officer, despite video evidence showing it was Deputy Bolin who assaulted the 19-year-old high school student. Why was this deputy allowed to resign after violently arresting a teenager, having a problematic police record, and being employed at this agency that says, we had no idea he had this kind of history? You know, self-reporting would have revealed it. There is a self-reporting apparatus for police officers. If he did not self-report, that meant he lied to get his job. Why would you allow someone like this the opportunity to resign rather than be terminated? It is likely, once again, in my opinion, because you are well aware of the history. Earlier this month, Palumbo, who is now 20 years of age, filed a lawsuit against Deputy Bolin and multiple Harris County Sheriff's deputies over the incident that took place 2 years ago. Joining him as a plaintiff in the lawsuit is his friend, Christopher Willis Jr., who was also arrested on misdemeanor charges. Willis was charged with obstructing a roadway, but that charge was also dismissed. The two other pending lawsuits against Bolin were filed in federal court by two other black men who were also abused by this same cop, Rico McCoy and Alexander Williams. McCoy was arrested under similar circumstances to Palumbo, where he was ordered out of the car over a minor traffic stop and then abused, resulting in the black man ending up in the hospital with broken teeth and a detached retina. That's according to the lawsuit. Palumbo told local media outlet ABC 13 that the arrest has left him traumatized. The lawsuit is ongoing. We will follow this lawsuit until completion. This lawsuit is guaranteed to end in the defunding of the police, by way of the police, by way of a negligent hire, and by way of culture that continues to permeate inside of precincts all across America. It is unfortunate that these young people had to experience such an extreme and unlawful hand of law enforcement. This is how the us and them continues to grow. The us and them mentality between cop and community. You never know who may be in a position to correct the system. My encouragement to the young people that had to go through this: don't allow this moment to become the summary of your life. Allow it to become the catalyst for your power and your strength. It is not you, it is them. All right. Senator, thoughts here?
Yeah, Doc, I'm sighing deeply. I want to cuss too. You know, when I heard Seth saying I didn't do anything and him call, saying call my mama, my mother. You know, we hear countless black boys, sometimes full grown black men saying the same thing.
Yep.
In moments like that. I just need somebody who I know loves me unconditionally to know what is happening to me. And it would be one thing if this was an isolated incidents, both with this Bolin, but also just generally speaking. These are not isolated experiences by black men and many times black women. The black community writ large has experienced this over generations. When it comes to law enforcement, it is very much systemic in nature. You and I have talked about this on countless shows. And those individuals who take an oath to protect and serve, it is also individual as well, because you as an individual law enforcement officer can refuse to comport yourself in the way that the system has programmed you to do. But no, it's very clear that Officer Bolin wants to act this way. And your point about that department saying that they did not know, oh no, they knew. It reminds me very much, Doc, of what happened to Tamir Rice. The officer that ended up shooting that 12-year-old boy on that playground and killing him had a record too before the Cleveland Police Department, my home city, hired him. It was written in his jacket by the previous police department that he worked for that he should not be a police officer. But yet and still, Cleveland ended up hiring this man and he ended up shooting and killing Tamir Rice. So, these are moments that the black community, we end up reliving over and over and over and over again. And it is so gut-wrenching, the emotional pressure that is put on the black community, pressures that people don't always get to see because it doesn't always play itself out in the way that it did when it came to Seth and what happened to him at the hands of this Harris County, a law enforcement officer. But the world needs to know, black people need to continue to recognize the heaviness on us in these United States of America, and dare I say worldwide, the pressures and the burdens of being black in America. And this is just it. And I do agree that this young man and also his friend Chris, hopefully they will not let this be the totality of their experience. But I mean, my heart is beating fast over this, and people need to understand is these slights, these micro and macro aggressions, black people go through them over and over and over again, not always at the hands of law enforcement, but just as a matter of existing in the world. I mean, it really is quite tragic. And I hope that young man gets every dime, both of them, every dime. Harris County needs to be taught a lesson, a very expensive lesson.
There's one reason why healthcare is so messed up in this country, and that's because of our money in politics situation. Because those industries that are deeply corrupt can just simply purchase all of Congress. And then the problem never gets fixed because of that bribery. Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's greed, and it's the greed of politicians, right? I mean, so everything they do is dictated by the donors and the money. I mean, I shouldn't say that, not everything. A lot of what they do is, and I do think that there are people who do things in spite of the fact that they have to raise money and often don't get that money and often don't win because they don't, but are in there fighting for ideals that they believe in. Bernie Sanders is certainly an example of someone like that.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you, or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
You want to know the 3 shows that I'm watching lately? Shogun, Anjin-san. Those guys are badasses. Then you go to the Duttons, Yellowstone. Now they don't always do it right, but they are badasses. But the 3rd show has the biggest badasses of all, the Young Turks. Live every weekend. Sick that I was so good. God damn it. Okay, live. Weekdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. That's what I meant. Anjin-san.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. Mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, Amazon Prime members, here's how you can subscribe for free on Twitch. Start by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, and then click that little subscribe or resubscribe button below the stream on Twitch. Scroll down and select the subscribe free with Prime button, and then you're finished. Close out immediately and share your little subscription alert with the chat. Send a cute message along with it and bathe in the sweet, twitchy Bezos-funded love. Hashtag Bezos Bucks.
Using the military inside the United States, totally unacceptable. And there's no need for it. Well, our cops can't arrest drug cartel gang members? Of course they can. They have great numbers in the past. And the military doesn't do a better job of policing than the police does, no matter whatever you think of the failings of the police. So it's just, there's no need for it. And second of all, anytime we start calling people terrorists, here comes the demagoguing. So the word has no meaning. It doesn't really, it's never used consistently. It's only used against people we don't like. So it's just totally, best case scenario is totally needless. Worst case scenario used for demagoguing and military force. So the third bucket is, should we invade Mexico? Are you kidding me? Why would we attack Mexico? What kind of lunatic talk is this? And I know why Trump's doing it. He thinks keep everything on the table, right? And let me make sure that I use my leverage, and this is among my options. I get it. But it sounds mental, and it's destabilizing for the world when we threaten to invade half the countries in our hemisphere.
What are some of your proudest projects at TYT? CDR, I mean, pitching the idea for this show and making it a reality and seeing it grow and evolve over the past 5-6 years. Dear God, has it been 5-6 years? But I have to say True North as well. The farthest reaches of the earth being traveled to by TYT, embedding with a team of scientists, producing this absolutely beautiful footage of a part of the world that doesn't receive much attention on a topic that I really care about. That's always gonna be super important to me.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Turk special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We spun a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow.
And then best writers in the country are right here on this panel with the obvious exception of Ben Iroh.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. The mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
All right, welcome back. Okay, black protester tasered at Marjorie Taylor Greene town hall. We got the video, here it is.
Ladies and gentlemen, they're all inside the interior of the United States.
How about the KKK?
All inside the interior of the United States.
This is the terrorist group going after black and brown.
You can head out. The protest is outside. Thank you very much. Protest is outside.
You butched-bodied bigot! You butched-bodied bigot!
Free Gammage!
Tempers flared as Washington lawmakers faced constituents at town halls on Tuesday. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene was interrupted several times by protesters at her town hall in Georgia, with police forcibly removing people from the event, arresting 3 individuals and using stun guns in 2 instances. Greene dismissed the interruptions and moved on.
Thank you to our great police officers.
She displayed some critical constituent questions about the Trump administration on a projector, reading them out loud, and responding in at least one case by pushing back.
Unfortunately, you're being brainwashed by the news that you're watching. A lot of Democrats pride themselves on being educated, and I suggest they educate themselves better.
Self-described champion of free speech, Marjorie Taylor Greene put up full mass. Appeared Tuesday at a tightly controlled town hall where security forces were quick to silence any dissenters. Speaking in Acworth, Georgia, Greene, a Donald Trump devotee and a magnet for controversy, was interrupted often during the meeting with constituents. According to media reports, at least 6 people were removed from the event, one by a taser. So Greene warned attendees that if they want to, quote, shout and chant, "We will have you removed. We will not tolerate it," end quote. Quote, "This is a town hall. This is not a political rally. This is not a protest," she said, a sentiment that contradicts the true spirit of a town hall, where elected representatives are expected to hear from all of their constituents, not just supporters. Greene took a different approach, instructing the crowd, quote, "If you want to sit and listen, you're welcome to listen." That's a lecture, madam. That is not a town hall. Town halls are, well, participatory. Give and take, Q&A. You engage your constituents. You care about their concerns. You listen to their issues. Greene stuck to her usual script of xenophobia, fear-mongering, telling the crowd that, quote, "illegal alien criminals, cartels, and terrorists are living at the U.S. southern border with Mexico and are, quote, all inside the interior of the United States." That prompted one attendee to shout, quote, "What about the KKK? All inside the interior of the United States." Greene repeated as an officer approached the woman, "The protest is outside," Greene said. "Thank you very much. Protest is outside. You butch-bodied bigot," the woman yelled as she was being escorted out. Greene wrote on X about the ordeal, saying, quote, "For anyone questioning, criticizing the police at my town hall last night," no, they're criticizing you, madam. "The great police officers conducted themselves in textbook fashion and protected every single person there by keeping the peace. These protesters were deranged and aggressive, lost control of themselves the second the town hall started. And the press knows it because it happened right in front of them. It has been a Democrat town hall. If this had been a Democrat town hall, the headlines on national news would have been things like deranged MAGA insurrection at Democratic town hall. But instead they are man tased at Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's town hall. We have tons of video footage that absolutely proves the protesters were unruly and fighting and resisting police. I 100% support our heroic police officers for the incredibly difficult job they do every single day. There are a few jobs that are as hard as theirs, not only them, but their families as well. Police officers should make more money, have better pensions, and deserve everyone's gratitude and respect. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they will be called the sons of God. Hallelujah. Do you feel that same way about the police officers at the Capitol? The ones who attempted to keep the peace, but they were faced with actual violent criminals who were committing felony trespass by way of destruction of property, and engaged in actual physical assault against police officers. Do you have the same type of love, respect, and admiration for the difficulty of their duties as you did for young people who are simply telling the truth while walking out? No, I didn't think so. Senator Turner, as a former elected official and hopefully a future one as well, you are someone accustomed to town hall, to events where people get to engage and everyone will not agree with you. That's the beautiful thing about an open and fair democracy, is that agreement is not required for respect to be adhered to both ways, listening and speaking. What say you?
Agreed, Doc. You definitely hit the nail on the head. I was just thinking to myself, lecture. She needs to be in front of a classroom. And even in classrooms when we lecture, I mean, you and I lecture, we leave room for our students to engage. She is displaying a lack of conviction, a lack of courage, and the hypocrisy that streams through the GOP. I mean, the people who want to say they want to stand up for law and order, but yet meanwhile they have abdicated their responsibility as a Congress to be the check and balance on this president. But I'm going to put that in the parking lot, Doc. What they did to the protester was absolutely wrong, and it displays that they are running scared. You know, I'm surprised she even had a quote unquote town hall, because so many of them are afraid to have town halls because they don't want to hear what their constituents have to say, the displeasure that their constituents are letting them know that they didn't ask for all this. They didn't ask for President Trump 2.0 to do many of the things that he's doing right now, and they don't appreciate that this Congress is just laying back. They need to reread the Constitution. They're supposed to be an co-equal branch of government, but they done melded themselves right on into the administration. And your point about law enforcement, right on. They only love law enforcement when they roughen up the type of people that they believe should be roughed up. But those police officers who were injured, died, one died, at least that I know of, they ain't got no holler. They don't have nothing to say about that.
Right.
So they pick and choose when they want to uplift law enforcement and when they don't. They're not consistent. They're hypocrites. They lack courage. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, for the love of God, I just, you know what? This is America. Anybody can get elected because the woman is empty. I mean, she is an empty vessel.
She really is. I mean, she has nothing but rhetoric and obviously is not able to land policy on her best day of the week. So she does this. All right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
You Get out of here.
I don't know you. You hit me, I will hit you. You hit me, I will hit you.
No.
You think this is appropriate? You think this is appropriate because I wear hijab? I have you on video. I hope you know that, sir. How you're behaving is completely unacceptable, and there are children and families in this store. You're ugly. You're calling my hijab ugly because you're racist. And so you feel that has nothing to do with me. That has nothing to do with me. That has everything to do with your own personal problems. Okay, I don't. What was that?
You country something.
Where are you from?
I am Hungarian.
You're Algerian?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Hungarian.
Oh, Hungarian.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So why are you hitting my cart?
Maybe push it out.
I don't like that.
Okay, put it up full mass. I'm not quite sure why this individual decided to pick this particular day to do what he did. The way he did it, however, seemed as if he has possibly done it before. And I know he's up in age. It could be a mixture of the age, being bigoted for a very, very long time unchecked, but it still does not give anyone the right to be nasty. Now, if you're able to shop, to put your clothes neatly on your basket just as such, and to pay for your items and go home, I would assume that you have the decency to understand what you did was wrong. All right? Senator, this woman is literally minding her own business in the most mind your business possible, right? Shopping. And this happens because of her attire, according to the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, this man, I can't call him a gentleman, but this man is really a reflection of American society and the permissions that people think that they have to attack Muslim women, plain and simple. And your point that he may have done this before, because he was just a little too comfortable. But I don't think he was ready this time for what he got. She let him know. You know, we got this saying in Cleveland, let him know. Oh, she let him know.
She let him know.
The larger point, Doc, is that there's something sick, and it's been sick, but it's really revealing itself in more and more overt ways about the xenophobia, the hatred, the anti-Muslim, anti-Black, mindset that continues to permeate in the United States of America. He thought it was perfectly okay and probably did not fear any consequences or repercussions. There's a larger thing. It's not just what she endured on that day, but it's what people like her and so many others have to endure every single day.
Yeah, well said. And she said something quite powerful. She said, that is your issue. That's about you. This is not about me.
Come on.
And I hope that everyone learns to never internalize the racism of someone else, because it is always their smallness. It is never yours. All right, we got more on the other side. Indisputable, stick and stay.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the Bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier, and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reformed, so I won't stop. You won't stop either. indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the Bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
Using the military inside the United States, totally unacceptable. And there's no need for it. Well, our cops can't arrest drug cartel gang members? Of course they can. They have great numbers in the past. And the military doesn't do a better job of policing than the police does, no matter whatever you think of the failings of the police. So it's just, there's no need for it. And second of all, anytime we start calling people terrorists, here comes the demagoguing. So the word has no meaning. It doesn't really, it's never used consistently. It's only used against people we don't like. So it's just totally, best case scenario is totally needless. Worst case scenario used for demagoguing and military force. So the third bucket is, should we invade Mexico? Are you kidding me? Why would we attack Mexico? What kind of lunatic talk is this? And I know why Trump's doing it. He thinks keep everything on the table, right? And let me make sure that I use my leverage, and this is among my options. I get it. But it sounds mental, and it's destabilizing for the world when we threaten to invade half the countries in our hemisphere.
What are some of your proudest projects at TYT? CDR, I mean, pitching the idea for this show and making it a reality and seeing it grow and evolve over the past 5-6 years. Dear God, has it been 5-6 years? But I have to say True North as well. The farthest reaches of the earth being traveled to by TYT, embedding with a team of scientists, producing this absolutely beautiful footage of a part of the world that doesn't receive much attention on a topic that I really care about. That's always gonna be super important to me.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
Turk special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel.
want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
Wow.
Some of the best writers in the country are right here on this panel with the obvious exception of John. I wrote.
Why is he lying? Because these are acts that you can commit with impunity.
Most of us are usually in boxer shorts underneath.
I went with the pants today.
This is the first ever power panel with Donald Trump as president.
We have elected the top Twitter troll in the country.
We have to stop pretending that race is not an issue in this country.
Now keep in mind, racism had gone away until Barack Obama brought it back.
That's right.
They want to protect life so much that they want to ensure that insurance companies don't cover your maternity care.
How do you know if you're a populist? Easy. Do you work for the donor class? You don't? Great, you're a populist. Okay, so the establishment takes money from the donors and serves the donors. Mainstream media takes money from advertisers, and they are giant corporations themselves, and they work for themselves, and they work for the powerful. If you care about the average person, and you want the average person to have better health care, better wages, a better life, and you hate corruption, congrats, you're a populist.
Using the military inside the United States, totally unacceptable. And there's no need for it. Well, our cops can't arrest drug cartel gang members? Of course they can. They have great numbers in the past. And the military doesn't do a better job of policing than the police does, no matter whatever you think of the failings of the police. So it's just, there's no need for it. And second of all, anytime we start calling people terrorists, here comes the demagoguing. So the word has no meaning. It doesn't really, it's never used consistently. It's only used against people we don't like. So it's just totally, best case scenario is totally needless. Worst case scenario used for demagoguing and military force. So the third bucket is, should we invade Mexico? Are you kidding me? Why would we attack Mexico? What kind of lunatic talk is this? And I know why Trump's doing it. He thinks keep everything on the table, right? And let me make sure that I use my leverage, and this is among my options. I get it. But it sounds mental, and it's destabilizing for the world when we threaten to invade half the countries in our hemisphere.
What are some of your proudest projects at TYT? CDR, I mean, pitching the idea for this show and making it a reality and seeing it grow and evolve over the past 5-6 years. Dear God, has it been 5-6 years? But I have to say True North as well. The farthest reaches of the earth being traveled to by TYT, embedding with a team of scientists, producing this absolutely beautiful footage of a part of the world that doesn't receive much attention on a topic that I really care about. That's always gonna be super important to me.
The rest of the news media says you should not fight for positive change. If you do, you're not really a reporter or a journalist, because reporters and journalists don't care what happens. I don't agree. That's not written anywhere. That's not a law. It's just a rule that they invented so that reporters didn't actually challenge the people that are in power. Well, we don't agree with that. We think we should challenge the people in power, that actually makes you a better journalist, not a worse one.
All right, well, the Young Turks special election day coverage dropping.
An amazing power panel.
Look at this panel. You want to talk about power?
Like a smart Destiny's Child.
We're all too strong.
We start a revolution. Yes, another one.
Aren't you excited?
All right, welcome back. Breaking news. Mass shooting on the campus, Florida State University. All right, this information is pouring in. We are trying to get as many details as possible. Right now, as of right now, at least 6 people have been injured in a mass shooting at Florida State University. That's according to hospital officials who had earlier confirmed to CNN it was receiving and treating patients from the campus. All 6 patients suffered gunshot injuries, a spokesperson for Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare said. One of those patients is now in critical condition, while 5 are seriously injured. A suspect is in custody. That's according to 2 law enforcement sources with direct knowledge of the situation. Once again, this is a developing story. The extent of the injuries is unclear, according to law enforcement sources citing preliminary reports. FSU Alert, the university's emergency notification system, warned the campus of a reported, quote, active shooter near Student Union just after noon today, Thursday, 17th, okay, of April. Continue, quote, continue to seek shelter and await further instructions. Lock and stay away from all doors and windows and be prepared to take additional protective measures, end quote. CNN has reached out to the Tallahassee Police Department, the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and the university. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement said it is, quote, actively engaged in the incident on FSU's campus. So sad, so sad. We will bring you details as they come. If more information is made available during the live broadcast, we would definitely make sure you have that information. Senator Turner, obviously this is one of the worst fears you have as a student, as a faculty, and as a parent.
Yeah, it's chilling, Doc. I mean, this is not the Wild Wild West. They're not at a gun range. They're not in a war zone. There's certain places and spaces in this country that people should feel free to go to without fear that they are going to get shot up. Grocery stores, college campuses, churches, mosque, synagogue. You know where I'm going with this, Doc. It really is quite chilling in this gun-obsessed culture here that has been cultivated in the United States of America is just catching up with innocent people. So definitely thoughts and prayers are out there in the sincerest way. And I know we're gonna keep everybody posted as we find out more information during the show.
Absolutely. All right, stay tuned. Okay, well, DNC Vice Chair says he's going to spend millions against elected Democrats for a significant reason. Put him up full mask. David Hogg. David Hogg plans to spend millions against Democratic incumbents. The DNC Vice Chair says he will spend millions against Democratic incumbents, admits this is going to anger a lot of people. Well, James Carville has called him out, referring to him as a, quote, contemptible little twerp. That sounds like James. And suggested the DNC sue him on Wednesday. Here's what James Carville said.
Somebody sued David Hogg. He's an officer of the Democratic National Committee. He is the vice chairman of the Democratic National Committee, and he's running against other Democrats. I would like to know, and you went to law school, does he have a fiduciary duty toward Democrats? If you work for News Nation, you can't promote CNN. That's because you work for somebody else. You have a fiduciary duty to your employer, which anybody can understand. He's being paid to run against other Democrats. I think it's an outrage. I don't know if I have standing, but I might give the DNC $10 and sue him. He's a contemptible little twerp, if you ask me.
Sue his ass, Jim. I'll have you on the show to talk about it.
I might. I don't know if I have standing, but somebody can standing.
Sue his punk ass. Start it right on this show.
James nor Cuomo are going to do a damn thing, number one. They want you to do something. Okay, they want you to get out and rah-rah. They're not going to do anything, nothing. Okay, let's talk about it. So Mr. Hogg, a Parkland shooting survivor and vocal gun control activist who was recently elected to the position of DNC vice chair, announced that leaders We Deserve, another organization he serves as president of, will be part of a $20 million initiative to intervene in Democratic districts. The effort is meant to boost younger Democrats who may be challenging incumbents and the status quo. It is about damn time. Now, you may disagree. I'm sure I will get significant pushback from those on the left. Don't care. This is an unorthodox fight that we are currently in. What did the Republicans do? The Republicans listened to Republicans at first. They listened to Republicans when the gatekeeper said, you got to give us John McCain. You got to give John McCain a chance. And they gave John McCain a chance. They didn't like John McCain. God rest his soul. Then said, okay, Mitt Romney, remember the Mitt Romney one? Give Mitt a chance, moderate Republican. That's the guy you need. You need a Mitt Romney. And Republicans gave you Mitt Romney as your presidential nominee for the Republican Party. They couldn't stand Mitt Romney. And then Republicans realized the gatekeepers of the Republican Party don't know what the hell they're doing. And instead of measuring who should be, instead of talking in terms of heir apparent and generational this and that and electability, politics, this and that, they said, we're going to give you somebody that you never saw coming. They gave you Donald Trump. And they realized the electability argument only works when you listen to the gatekeepers, because if you don't listen to the gatekeepers, anyone is electable if you vote for them. Anyone is electable if you vote for them. So they gave the Republicans Donald Trump rather than the Republicans giving them the heir apparent. Now you're in an unorthodox fight. Those who have been here a long time in the Democratic ranks, they don't know how to fight in this climate. Then you get a guy like Mr. Hogg, who plenty will disagree with, some will agree with. Whatever it may be, he's shaking it up. There is something different now. There's more. In an interview, Mr. Hogg said he understood that he would face blowback for his decision to serve simultaneously as a top official in the party, which is typically focused on electing Democrats over Republicans, and as a leader of an effort to oust current Democratic lawmakers. This is going to anger a lot of people. Hogg said of his efforts, quote, people say they won't change in the Democratic Party, but really they won't change so as long as it doesn't potentially endanger their position of power. He said, that's not actually wanting change. That's selfishness, he concluded. Hogg added yesterday, younger leaders simply bring a different level of urgency that we just aren't seeing in our politics right now. We grew up with the existential threat of climate change bearing down on us. Adolescence today means active shooter drills and wondering if you're going to survive math class. And we are told every election is the most important of our lifetime, that we must protect democracy at all costs, all while democracy continues to fail us. Carville also doesn't find the tour by Bernie and AOC all that helpful to Democrats either. Here he is.
Let me make a point about Bernie and AOC. But Bernie run for president twice. He's lost twice. AOC, in her kind, and this guy, David Hogg, they want to run against other Democrats.
Yeah.
They don't run against Republicans. Well, when you beat a Republican, come back and see me and I will be impressed. But if you're spending all your time, and I think that's the real problem. And I mean, it's fine. They draw big crowds. They draw everything. That's great. But all they want to do, and all this guy Hogg wants to do, is they want to beat, like Democrats are not the problem right now.
In a video this week for Politicon, Carville noted that progressive Democrats should just split from the party. You go your way, we go our way. Here it is.
Because you don't ever run, they never run against a Republican, okay? All they do is run against other Democrats. don't quite understand why you're so anxious to have the word Democrat in the description of what you do. But maybe we can have a amicable split here. And you go your way, and we go our way, and after the election, we come together and see how much common ground we can find. I know this is a heresy. It's always been, the Democratic Party has always been the coalition.
Sir, you need some tough love, your brother. You are part of the reason we are here today. You are. The amount of ground we have lost with just a few months of this president should let you know that the status quo that you represent is inadequate in its leadership apparatus and capacity to authentically fight at the level that the game is being played today. Instead of using your precious airtime and going after the white supremacist culture that has taken root again in America, you took the opportunity to come against the progressive voices that are adjacent to the democratic movement who care deeply about what's happening today. Statistician and 538 founder Nate Silver is predicting that Representative AOC, Democrat out of New York, would become the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party in 2028. In a video published to his Silver Bullet newsletter, Silver and host Galen Druk both chose AOC as the number one pick for the likely 2028 Democratic presidential nominee. Quote, I think there's a lot of points in her favor at this very moment. In a Yale poll just out this week, AOC has the highest net favorability rating of any of the Democrats that they asked about. Now, obviously, that poll is a nothing burger today, okay? That would change like the winds. But the reality is there's a real frustration inside of the Democratic Party, and by Carville thinking that this is just a small movement or this is a distraction. No, brother, this is the remedy. This is your solution. The same thing you're trying to avoid is the thing that will lead you to salvation. I'm talking about the young voices who need to now take over. The progressives who have not been purchased by corporations need to take over. The actual leaders who give a damn about people like Senator Nina Turner, it is time for them to take over, period. So Senator, I hate to put you on the spot. I know that Carville is a loud voice and respected by many in the Democratic movement, but I thoughtfully, authentically disagree with his position today.
I mean, man, everything you said, Doc, I'm not one of those. So Mr. Carville can have several seats. And that I mean, I was jotting down things because my mind is just racing right now. Number one, who does James Carville think he is? He may have been a magnificent mind in his time in terms of a Democratic strategy, but he is not built for this moment. Just like Senator Chuck Schumer is not built for this moment, just like, as far as I'm concerned, Congressman Hakeem Jeffries is not built for this moment. You don't keep the same architects of a loss of the popular vote and the Electoral College in place. They just are not built for this moment. And it's not an age thing, it's a mentality thing, although age may from time to time play a role. Now, as far as Mr. Hogg, I'm all for it, baby. Don't back down. I'm just unsure how he gonna serve two masters though. That's my only thing. But if we rocking and rolling to primary do nothing Democrats who cave, who do not have courage, who do not understand how to use power, I am absolutely unequivocally all for it. I've been saying it. So the fact that David Hogg is getting all this press for saying something I've been saying for a long time. And Doc, as you know, because you've been rolling with me on this, vilified for saying the same thing. And I'm also old enough to remember, even though I know that Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard is over there on the other side, I get it. But there was a point in time when she was the vice chair of the Democratic Party. I'm old enough to remember that. And I remember the press saying she was a rising star. And when she criticized the Democratic Party, not only did she criticize and critique the Democratic Party rightfully, she supported Senator Bernard Sanders. And I mean, they kicked her to the curb so fast. You see where I'm going, Doc? So they get to pick and choose. Carvel does not get it. So when he says we can leave the Democratic Party, hell, he can leave the Democratic Party. What is a primary for? Other than a debate among the people of the same party, and then they do run against Republicans. It's called a general election. So I don't want him out here deceiving folks about what a primary is for. Nobody owns this seat. And as somebody who has been duly elected, certainly as an incumbent, you would like to think that you're doing your job so well, maybe that nobody would want to run against you. But newsflash, in a representative democracy, people have a right to run. That is why it's called a primary. In Mr. Carvel's world, there would not be a primary, that the incumbent is entitled to the seat forever, which now we ain't in a representative democracy. You working on monarchy there, but I'm gonna put that, maybe he missed that class. But in his world, whoever wins the seat as a Democrat should never be challenged at all and should always, election after election, no matter what they do or do not do, should move to the general. That ain't happening. And so I am glad that people are waking up. But Doc, for the record, I just want to say, Sister Turner been fighting these neoliberals for a very long time.
And will continue to do so. Very thankful for your leadership, very thankful for the leadership of people like Mr. Hogg and others. All right, we got more on the other side, indisputable, stick and stay. Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the Bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked. My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. Educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power. It makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America. So
listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
So now we have it. Trump's war on the federal government does in fact stifle black progress. These are facts. Let's put it up for a mass. Here we go. Assistant Professor David Love writes that Trump's MAGA administration mass firing of thousands of government workers is a war on black progress due to government jobs building the black middle class. The federal government is the nation's largest employer with around 3 million workers. Black people are nearly 14% of the US population. 13% of the non-governmental workforce and nearly 1/5 of the federal workforce, but are in even higher numbers depending on the agency. For example, while black people are 20% of the employees at the Department of Health and Human Services, they are 24% at the Department of Veterans Affairs, 26% of postal workers, nearly 30% at the Department of Education. There is a backstory behind the high representation of black federal workers, even as the federal government has not worked in the interest of black people in so many other ways over the years. Quote, since the Civil Rights Act, it's been one of the most equitable employers, wrote Leslie Morant, CEO and managing consultant of the ESP Effect LLC, said of the federal government. There are few places in this country where African Americans are overrepresented. The federal workforce is one of the few places. Do you believe it's a coincidence that one of the very few places where African Americans have overrepresentation as workers? Do you believe it's a coincidence that it became the #1 target of the Trump administration? There's more. A former chief counsel of the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission and the inaugural chief DEI officer at the Philadelphia Police Department, Morant was a federal employee for 23 entire years. Quote, is where the black middle class gets its stabilization, she said, of federal jobs. It's where we enter the middle class. It's about generational wealth, sending children to college. So without naming race, you target the federal workforce, and you get to do it without naming race. That's right, by a blanket firing. Bill Fletcher Jr., a writer, trade unionist, and former president of Trans-Africa Forum, said the current crisis is particularly relevant to Black America. Quote, in the face of rapid racist discrimination, the public sector generally and the federal sector in particular become a major center of Black American employment. Trump/Musk cuts have a disproportionate impact on the Black workforce and Black communities, Fletcher said. Trump's plan to eradicate DEI is a project to disseminate all civil rights laws, including the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which protects workers from discrimination based on race, religion, sex, and national origin. A Trump executive order rescinded President Johnson's 1965 order prohibiting federal contractors from engaging in racial discrimination in employment. In that regard, Trump looks much like President Woodrow Wilson, who segregated the federal workforce, a move which excluded Black people from civil service jobs and undermined upward mobility for 50 damn years. The evidence shows the targeting of Black federal employees is intentional. And it is no secret that DEI is the new N-word. For example, the American Accountability Foundation, AAF, a Heritage Foundation funded group, compiled a watch list of 57 mostly Black civil service workers involved in health equity work. And if Black people can no longer turn to the federal government for employment, neither can they rely on corporate America. Quote, Black workers are not being elevated into higher paying jobs in the larger economy such that they can ignore the cuts in the federal sector, noted Fletcher. According to a study from the University of California at Berkeley's Labor Center, Black people in the public sector earned about 25% more than their private sector colleagues. Believe me, the administration has these numbers. Moreover, unlike corporate America, Black federal workers reach executive ranks known as Senior Executive Service, or SES. There are lots of Black people in SES positions. It's like you or I going to corporate America, and we can make it to the level right before the C-suite, but we never make the C-suite. All right, said. But in the federal government, we're in the C-suite in ways you do not see in finance, healthcare, and insurance prior to January 20th. Quote, I don't know many people of the Black middle class in corporate positions, she says. So when you cut those back, you collectively destabilize Black communities. Think about DC. You cut back the federal workforce. It's full of Black folks with high-level positions. Now you have the data. Senator, thoughts?
Yeah, Doc, thanks for laying out that data, because those numbers matter. And the federal government owes Black people, and I mean that. Beyond what's happening with the jobs, if we talk about reparations, because Black people pay taxes into the federal government. And you made me think of the Executive Order 8802, of which Asa Philip Randolph fought President FDR to ban discrimination in government and defense industry for the very reasons that we are talking about, that if no other place, i.e. the private sector, is going to give Black people a fair and equal opportunity to compete for jobs and to gain those jobs, and I'm gonna put reparations in the parking lot because a job ain't reparations, it must be the federal government. And that is why Asa Philip Randolph said to President FDR, I'm marching on you. A lot of people think about the March on Washington in the 60s. I want to direct them to the march potentially on Washington in the 40s, as Asa Philip Randolph, one of the greatest civil rights unionists, he's also a civil rights leader, but unionist in the United States of America, said to President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, you have a responsibility to make sure that Black people can compete fairly for government jobs, both the federal government and also in the defense industry. So it is no surprise that this current president and his co-president, Elon Musk, would cut federal jobs to hurt disproportionately the Black community, because it is in those jobs, as the professor has said, as you have laid out in those arguments, where the majority of Black people who've had the opportunity to work in those jobs made it to the middle class. So I need our sisters and brothers from other walks of life to understand this, that when the federal government starts to overtly attack Black people, that attack is on all working class people. The Trump administration knows exactly what they are doing.
Welcome back. Let's get it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bullpen. In the Bullpen today, we have some remarkable leaders who are setting the example of leadership in elected office. I'm talking about elected Solicitor General of Fulton County, that's in Atlanta, Georgia. We have on the show Solicitor General Keith Gammage and also Judge Andre Gammage, South Bend, Indiana. Thank you both for being on the program.
Glad to be here. Thank you for having us.
Thank you both. I'm going to start with you, Solicitor Gammage, about your progressive ideology as it relates to restoration of the human being and the approach that you take as an elected prosecutor. Then we're going to have the interesting story and connection to Judge Gammage, and obviously there is relation. So we'll start with you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ritchie. We certainly have to protect the public safety as prosecutors and court officials, but I believe equally important is to ensure that we provide pathways toward the elusive American dream. So these second chance initiatives that pour into the community, that focus on uplifting young people, parents, and families all together by a second chance through these and other initiatives is one of our key functions and most critically important to my team and I.
Can we talk about something you just recently did? And you've been doing this since elected. You actually ran on this platform of allowing people the opportunity to get their background stabilized, if you would, to make sure that they don't have a hindrance when it comes to employment, et cetera. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, for so often the criminal justice system has been a sledgehammer and hasn't used the kind of soft glove touches that we should be utilizing, in my view, with a holistic, individualized approach to the measure of punishment and justice for both victims, witnesses, and those who are accused. So through the restorative justice initiatives, particularly expungements and record restrictions, we look back at people who have fallen, who've made a misstep, but now who have taken steps to become rehabilitated and are looking to improve their lives. And just about every time we hear a story from someone, it's not just about them wanting to remove barriers that are in their path. Just about every story we hear is about them trying to be a better human being for their family.
That's right.
So that work is not traditional for a prosecutor or even for a judge. So the fact that we're empowered to do it and able to do it, some would say is something extra in addition to our statutory duties. What I would say is that it is absolutely required and probably where my team and I receive the most joy and satisfaction from.
Man, I got to tell you, your conferences where you are able to bring so many people together and have the community come out, they can get their records taken care of in various ways, depending on the actual charge, has become a hallmark here in the city of Atlanta. And that's why this conversation is important. Now, the connectional factor is very beautiful. We're talking about Judge Gammage, because as a judge, you've been able to do something very similar given the authority that you currently have. So talk to us about that and how other judges could do so as well.
Well, I think one of the words that my cousin Keith has behind him is justice. And unfortunately, we've got these categories of justice. The prosecutor is supposed to do this, and the judiciary is supposed to do this, and the defense is supposed to do this. But justice is all encompassing. We each have a responsibility. One of the things that I saw in my cousin Keith's work is that it is very difficult when we say something is that you are entitled to an expungement. So all these cases that we expunge are only those cases that the legislature, whether it's the state of Georgia or state of Indiana or whatever state you might be in, we are just doing what the legislature and the laws of those states allow. However, when that expungement is out there, but people can't get it, they can't get it because of the cost, because of complexity. It is important for all of us to come to the table, especially the judiciary. You know, it's my job, it's our job to be able to make sure that what we represent to people is what they can actually get. And when a person has served their time, the legislature also made up the laws. Look, you served your 5 years. 10 years after you've finished your conviction, why can you still not get a job? Why can't you go to your grandchild's school to see the play? Because you have a conviction from some years ago, you're still paying the price. So for me, in my role, as Keith said, it is important for all of us to make sure that justice is done, no matter which side of the ledger you're on.
Judge Gammage, you said something quite fascinating. It is simple but profound. You said the word justice. Yep. Justice. Talk to us about how your upbringing, how your connection to the solicitor, Keith Gammage, how your approach to the bench today has been informed throughout the, let's just say, the nuances of experience.
Wow. Let me tell you this. Our fathers grew up in Mississippi. Cotton still being picked. Our fathers were born in the mid-30s. While my father didn't talk about much of what happened then, I knew what happened. I heard about what happened, and I've been there. I understood that they went to court every day, every week, every month, every year, hoping for a change, hoping to get justice. Time after time after time, they were denied. I can't imagine what that felt like, not to be able to sit, not to be able to eat, not to be able to live. When I took the bench, I knew that it was important for me, given that background, given what my father and my uncle went through, great men without the benefit of the proper education, the type of people that they were. It was my job to be able to make sure that when people came into my courtroom, they got the kind of justice that was denied many, many years ago. And the fact that my father and Keith's father were denied that kind of justice, the great men that they were, I couldn't let that happen.
Wow. Solicitor Gammage, I remember saying on record on my radio show years ago that you were the first person that I had personally witnessed who ran on this platform of restorative justice and won. And when you got into office, you did it. So while this may be commonplace for some jurisdictions, and it may be a term that's accustomed into the social context now, very few people were talking about this as prosecutors. Talk about what you faced being a person running on the platform and then implementing the platform as well.
You know, I think people did not think at that time in 2015 and 16 when I began a campaign of restorative justice. Quite frankly, in Georgia, people were unfamiliar with it. And folks were talking then about lock them up and throw away the key still in 2015 and 2016. And that was my experience as a young public defender and even when I became a prosecutor here in Georgia. But somehow the Lord put in our hearts and heads the belief that there could be a different approach. And now we've seen really that whirlwind happen all across the nation as prosecutors and judges and even folks within the various components of the system look for new ways and new pathways. I think the most recent one that you asked about, April 5th, where we locked arms with Ambassador Andrew Young, civil rights icon and legend, who observed some of those things that Judge Gammage just described that our fathers and mothers saw and experienced. He fought alongside other civil rights leaders, just like our parents and forebears did, to build a better tomorrow and a better reality in America. And so inspired by a view that we can distinguish between those who are truly a threat. We're not soft on crime. We distinguish between those who are truly a threat to public safety, those who are a terror in our communities, and those who need a more gentler touch and guardrails to bring them towards success. That record restriction and expungement work that we're doing is that look back to move people forward. And I would say it is absolutely God's work, and it is absolutely inspired by the journey of people who've not always had the best opportunity in the system. And we do have that duty to deliver justice in every form of the word.
And I love what you said. You know my story, and I will echo it again. I talk about it publicly. When I was 17 years of age, I was a foster kid, didn't know what I was doing in life, was caught up in gang life. I was facing 22 years in prison. And because of a second chance program called the First Offenders Act, not only do I not have a felony conviction today, part of the mandate of the program was to get your high school diploma, get a job, or go to college. And I can say I got a bunch of college behind me now as a professor. And I think sometimes of how many opportunities would have been taken away from me if I would have had a felony conviction on my record at 17. And the reason why 17 was so important is because Georgia had just passed a law that made all 17-year-olds adults for one context only, and that was for criminal prosecution. So at 17, you were an adult in the state of Georgia for criminal prosecution. Judge Gammage, I only have a few minutes left. I want you to just talk directly to some other judges that may be in a position that you're in, and they can do what you're doing. What would you encourage them to do?
What I would encourage them to do is do justice and be diligent about that. My efforts here in St. Joseph County were years in the making. I continue to talk to the prosecutor. I continue to talk to the prosecutor time after time, week after week, month after month. I'm sure he was tired of hearing from me. I continue because justice is hard, right? Justice is hard. And so I partnered with people. So those things that I was not able to do from the bench, I partnered with the prosecutor. I partnered with the University of Notre Dame Law School. I partnered with another firm here. So whatever you can't do from the bench on your own, it is important. When you recognize that there's injustice there, you have a responsibility to right that injustice. And what you do need to do is you need to bring in the partners that you need to bring in to be able to make justice happen. That's your responsibility.
Well said. Solicitor Gammage, same question to you. For those who are elected prosecutors, they are in a position to do this kind of justice. What would you say to them?
You know, in law, we have different types of evidence, Dr. Ritchie. You actually represent the best evidence, the highest form of evidence and proof that second chance opportunities do work. Look at your success and think about that work, your pathway, and how you just described those barriers being removed have helped you. What I often do is call other prosecutors, and I would do so now, to ask them to think out of the box. Think about what justice really must do, what justice really must look like, even reimagined. Come out of the courthouse, out of their offices, like many of them are doing now, lean into the community and see what the citizens and people in the community actually need, what uplifts them and what will help them get a true sense of what that justice looks like. What Judge Gammage alluded to, every one of the records we've expunged represents from $5,000 to $7,500. That's the cost that, at a minimum, the cost that it would take to hire a lawyer to look into whether you might be a candidate for an expungement or a record restriction. So I would just keep calling them to think out of the box, to be thoughtful, to really deeply pursue justice. And to Judge Gammage's point, find partners who can advance that mission, whether that's second chance career opportunity folks that you partner with, whether it's folks in the educational and academic spaces like Notre Dame, UGA is who we partner with here. Thinking and collaborating and never, ever, ever surrendering. Never surrendering to the notion that we can make that Keynesian dream a reality.
Amazing. I know the lives that you transform by way of these programs. And I say thank you on my behalf and their behalf, as well, and the families that they are connected to. Solicitor Keith Gammage, thank you so much. Judge Gammage, thank you. We hope to have you all back on the program very soon. Really appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you all so much.
All right. Remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.